Hello, I'm Aiden, a GenZ conservative, and today I'll be taking the 12-axis test. The 12-axis test is a political compass test a political test much like the political compass, but it's better because it has 12 values, making it more concise and better. It also just gives you a more accurate statement for your political values. Then, those 12 axes for the test are the federal versus unitary. Basically, if the government should be a federal republic, meaning states and local government should have more control, or if the federal government, or if there should be one federal unitary government. Then democratic versus autocratic. Basically, if a government should be democratic or if a dictator should rule. Um, Security versus freedom. If you prefer being a more free society versus a more secure society, and then nationalism versus internationalism. Basically, if you support your nation more than the international uh, world, then now to diplomatic, and then to military versus pacifist, support military, or if you support peace, assimilation versus multiculturalism. Basically, if you want immigrants to assimilate to a culture, or if you want there to be a more spread out multicultural culture. Then to the economic collectivized versus privatized. If the whether a collective government or a whole bunch of people own a whole bunch everything instead of the government. Then planned versus laissez-faire. Basically, planned more regulations. The government should plan the economy instead of laissez-faire, meaning they should take a hands-off approach and let people do what people do. Internet isolationism versus globalism. Basically, if you want to keep your country separate from the international scene and more, it's isolationism. And then globalism is just if you want to focus more on the global world. And then now it's societal irreligious or religious, basically not religion or religious. Progressive versus traditional. Progressives prefer societal change, cultural progressivisms. And then traditional is more traditional, more focused on traditional values, doesn't want the world to change. And then acceleration versus bioconservative. Basically, if you want humans to improve technological wise, and then is acceleration bioconservatives, basically the opposite of that. So let's start. We will be doing the 60 question one because the 288 one will take way too long. The first question: should the government prioritize my country over all other countries? Yes, the government should focus more on your own country because that's what your government is supposed to do: help your own country, not other countries around the world. So strongly agree. Governments must break up monopolies. Yes, if they are a true monopoly, then they have to be broken up to actually protect consumers. True monopoly would actually hurt people, where and there wouldn't be any competition, so the products wouldn't actually improve. So agree, but if you do this too much, then it's just bad for the economy. The very existence of our state is a threat to our liberty. No, the state actually protects a lot of liberties. For example, if the state didn't punish murder, um, people would murder, and they would be taking away the most important rights, the right to life. It is a prerequisite to literally every other right. So it actually protects more of our rights. So I will actually agree. Although there are places where it can actually overstep and hurt your rights and take away your freedoms, thus making it harmful for you. But there is a way that the state actually protects liberty. So I'll press agree. Should we be accepting of other cultures? Um, it depends on what type of cultures. If they're cultures that have close but not the exact same values, then yes. But if they are a culture where killing is fine, where you shouldn't be protecting liberties and they focus more on control, then disagree. So I will put I'll put disagree. Um, national government needs more power. No, they need way less power. The national government right now is way too powerful. They have regulations that are redundant. They have overstepped in their security protocols when it comes to the national security agencies and the FBI and the CIA. So the national government does not need more power. So strongly disagree. Most sort of. Some religions do contradict themselves. Some are self-consistent, but I personally don't believe that um, I can objectively say if God is real or not. So I will put partially disagree, but religions do have a good part to them. Then the benefits of open borders would outweigh the cost. No, 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 no. Open borders would allow terrorists and drugs and a whole bunch of people to come in, soaking up resources here in the U.S. It would also cause wages to go down because, as the law of supply and demand, if the law of supply and demand also applies to labor. So if a whole bunch of people move in, thus increasing the amount of labor available, it would actually decrease wages. Um, so it's actually bad. Um, so it bad for the country. Also, if we have open borders, people can just come and do whatever they want. So a terrorist could easily come in, and we wouldn't be able to stop it. Right now, I believe in the U.S. there has been like hundreds of people on the terrorist watch list caught at the U.S. southern border. So if we didn't do that, there would be a whole bunch of terrorists here in the U.S. So I would uh, strongly disagree. Private property should be abolished. Strongly disagree. People have a right to privacy. They should be able to do what they want with the things that they have gained and earned. So private property should not be abolished. Also, if you did, it would just be harmful for the economy. Here in the U.S., we heavily rely on capitalism for innovation and increasing production, etc., etc. And if private property would be abolished, those things wouldn't happen. Also, if there was no private property, anyone could go anywhere, thus easily making it easy for people to invade your privacy and come into your home when you don't want them there. So, strongly disagree. High levels of economic regulation. No, no. Regulation harms the economy. It makes it less efficient and less efficient, thus making it worse for the average person here in the U.S. Now, some regulations are good, but overall, high levels of economic regulation are horrible for the nation. So I'll put strongly disagree. It's better to maintain a balanced budget. Yes, because in the long term, it would actually be better for our citizens. If we had a balanced budget, we wouldn't have so much debt that would be dragging down the U.S. economy. That wouldn't be dragging down the U.S. economy. So it's better to maintain a balanced budget, and better for the long-term success of the nation. So I'll put agree. If we are accepting of, if we accept migrants at all, it's important that they assimilate to our culture. Yes, if they don't, then we'll have massive divides in our country, like we already have. Um, Different cultures competing against each other are just bad for the nation. Just look at the Israel Hamas thing right now. Two different cultures were there wouldn't be that massive war. Also, if they don't assimilate to our culture, they will have values from other countries that are bad for society here. For example, if they come from a socialist country that wants total government control over the economics, they might want that here, and that is bad for society. Also, if they come from an authoritarian country that they look up to, then they might bring those authoritarian ideas here, thus making it worse for society here. So I will put uh, agree. Transhumanist. Transhumanist is basically saying people should advance and we should move on. So I will. I don't know the. So I'll press partially agree. Nations should not maintain a military. No, having a military is very important for the nation. If we didn't, we would be attacked all the time. We would be attacked from our southern border, northern border, from the seas. It is important to maintain a military, both for our economic and political security here in the U.S. So I will put strongly disagree. There's no higher power. Again, I'm not religious. I cannot objectively say whether God is real or anything like that. So I will put disagree. Legal immigrants, yes, because as their first act in our nation, they have violated our laws. If they do not respect our laws, they will break the laws again and again and again. So yes, they should be deported in most of all cases. So yes, strongly agree. National government must be strong to adequately protect all of its citizens. Um, national, if it just said government must be somewhat adequately strong, then yes. But the national government, no. States can have stronger governments that protect the citizens better than the national government because they have less people to look over. So I will press disagree. Those who serve in the military should be able to only those. No, citizens should be able to join in the political conversation and become lawmakers. If that didn't happen, we would end up with authoritarians and etc. etc. Also, the military favors one political party more than the other, so that would be bad for a political discourse, and it would just be generally bad for the nation. So I would put strongly disagree. Protectionism is unnecessary and unrealistic idea. No, there are certain protections that must be made against other nations. For example, we should impose some level of tariffs on China because they are a massive national security threat for people here in the U.S. They are likely to challenge the U.S. soon and threaten our positions in the Pacific. So it is not also, protectionism is good in some cases, stopping movement of jobs away from the U.S. and it would actually increase wages. So I would actually put disagree. There should be some tariffs and protectionism, but not to an absolute extreme. So disagree. Lasting peace leads to prosperity. Yes, peace leads to prosperity. If you have war, you have destruction and death. And peace allows you to rebuild, construct things. Not it does not cause mass death. So lasting peace does lead to prosperity generally. Nations usually need a military to survive. Yes, if we did not have a military, again, we would be absolutely overrun. So there we go. All humans share a common identity. The fact that we are all humans, yes, we do. We all share very similar DNA. There's only very, very, very small differences. So we do all have a somewhat shared identity. Um, Although, again, those small differences in DNA and how we were brought up does change it, but there are parts of us that are shared. So I will press partially agree. Economic problems today are not capitalism. Yes, they're caused by government. Government overregulation is a problem here in the U.S. We can't get anything done. If the government tries to build something, it's bad and inefficient. Uh, and if we overregulate the private sector, it'll just be bad for the entire nation. Um, Also, spending by the government is what actually caused the 2008 uh, bubble. It was also caused sort of by the private sector, but overregulation causes more problem than under under regulation today. So I will put um, strongly agree. People born yes, people born into wealthy families do have uh, unfair access. They just generally do. Now that isn't necessarily a bad thing because if they have unfair access to education, meaning they can actually get a better education. Now that might seem unfair, but it's actually better for overall society because higher levels of education mean that we can easily build better technologies. So they do have unfair access, but sometimes that isn't a bad thing. So agree. General populace, no. Most of the time, the general consensus is right. Now there are places where it's wrong, like the abortion issue and other issues. But generally, the populace is correct, but there are issues where they are wrong. Strongly disagree. Gender is based in biological sex. People have um, people have chromosomes in their DNA, X and Y. Um, if you have XX, you're female. If you have XY, you're male. It's as simple as that. Gender is not a social construct. It is based in biology, and it is not a social construct. Um, so strongly disagree. Nations should compete when cooperate when it benefits both of them. Yes, when it benefits both of them, they should cooperate. So because then it's just a net benefit. Um, agree. Local governments address issues yes. National government can't address everything. They can't focus on everything. It would take practically unlimited resources, and local governments are just better at addressing some issues. So agree. National government nation must obey its leadership without question. No, you should always question your leadership. You should always question what you're saying. You you should always question, no matter what. Whistleblowers are good for society. It depends. If they're giving away national security things, then no, they're bad. But if they are shedding light on corruption and other things like that, then yes, they are good for society. So I would actually do, and that is usually what it is most of the time for whistleblowers. So I will do agree. Um, Most bad things happen. No, it's not caused by turning away from religion that's causing the world to crumble right now. It's a turning away from family values and values of freedom and life. Um, because family is the most important thing in anyone's life. It allows for a sense of stability both for the children and the adults. Family helps out each other. It's just generally bad for people to not be in a family. So, but it's not turning away from religion. Although religion has a important section of family values, turning away from family values is what's really causing a lot of the issues right now. So, I will do partially disagree because uh, family values and religion are tied very deeply. So, I will do partially disagree. Nobody in other countries has their best interest in mind. Disagree. Some countries do have our best interest in mind because they have their own interest in mind. For example, Britain and a lot of countries in Europe, they have our interest in mind because we protect them. We keep them safe from Russia and other countries. So they have our best interest in mind because it benefits them. So I will actually disagree, but there are countries that are bad for us. So I'll actually partially disagree because there are countries like China and Russia that are bad for the U.S. and cause horrible problems. So I will do partially disagree. Military action by our nation is often necessary to protect it. Yes, sometimes it is necessary. For example, if we got tacked on 9/11, it was necessary to go in to try to eliminate Al Qaeda. Now, the Iraq War, that was a bad decision, but going in to eliminate all the terrorist groups it is very important to do so. Also, just look back to World War II. Um, when Japan attacked, we responded like we should have. If we just let them bomb us, then we would have just fallen. So there has to be consequences if someone attacks us, and military action is important sometimes. So I will do agree. Single payer, no, no. Single payer universal health care makes the quality of healthcare worse. It allows for less innovation, less less effective care. Um, with the universal system, it wouldn't provide the incentive to for people to innovate, to improve. Now there are problems with our current healthcare system. I do admit it. But the problems aren't with the private sector; it's with the public sector. Um, it's with the public sector. Spending on healthcare actually pushes up demand um, for healthcare, thus increasing the prices because there's more money free flowing across the nation. So universal healthcare system is actually bad. What we need is more competition, not less. So I will do strongly disagree. UBI is a better means compared to the current. Yes, yes. Social Security is a bad idea. To be honest, it is a horrible idea. We're just giving money to the richest generation. The richest generation is the baby boomers, and they're the ones receiving Social Security. So UBI is better, but we would have to get rid of pretty much all the um, other welfare like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, etc. That's the only way UBI is better. But otherwise, the UBI is just bad. So it is better than our current welfare system. So I will press agree. No authority should be left unquestioned. Yes, you should question everything. Question all authority because they could be lying to you. National cultures are important to protect. Yes, if a national culture is broken down and people aren't cooperating, um, there will be violence and harms across the nation. So I will press agree. They are important to protect. Police need more power and protection. Um, they need more power and protection. Yes. The police right now, because of the Black Lives Matter movement and the defund police, it has led to more crime, and the police can't do what they need to do. Now, there needs to be accountability in the police. Yes, that's why they need to have all body cameras, both in the front and in the back, and there should be sensors placed on the gun to see when it's fired. But uh, police do need more power and they do need more funding. But there needs to be regulations on them, and they need to know that they're not above the law. So they do need more power and protection, but they also need oversight. So I'll press agree. Some freedom must be given in order to keep people safe. Yes. Again, and here's my favorite example of that. If you had the freedom to murder, then that must be given up to protect your freedom. Because if other people had that same freedom, they would be removing your freedom to live, which is the most important freedom possible, because it is the basis of all other freedoms. So if people had the freedom to kill, um, then the then that would actually cause less freedoms overall. So some freedoms must be given up, especially that one. And there has to be laws and regulations so those type of things don't happen. So some freedoms must be given up. Yes. National government can't understand what the people need. No, they can, but they have a harder time than state governments. State governments are just generally better. They're governing over less people. That means less interest, conflicting, and less issues. So I will press disagree. Uh, No, partially disagree. Then democracy is more than the decision making process. Yes, it also shows government approval. It is also important to stave off authoritarianism. So yes, it is more than a decision making process. It is important that the government follows the majority opinion. Um, no. Sometimes the majority can be wrong, but if a majority is in power for a long period of time, then yes, they should follow the majority. Um, but the majority shouldn't be followed instantly. There should be things stopping from fast-paced change that actually allows for more stability in government and in the nation. So I partially disagree, but in the majority of cases, over a long period of time, the government should follow the majority opinion. So partially disagree. Without economic regulations, monopolies will dominate. Again, break up monopolies. So there's more competition, meaning better things for consumers and just generally more productivity overall. So there are some regulations that need to be happen, but not draconian levels of regulation. So agree. Concept of free market should be extended towards global trade. Uh, Partially agree. There's some need for protectionism, but there should be generally free trade. Tariffs should be eliminated. No. Um, Tariffs on nations that are an active threat to global security, global peace, and an active threat to the U.S. Those tariffs should say, and maybe even if there's sanctions on them, keep them there. So, disagree. No, no. People have the freedom to do that. I don't think it's the best thing morally or best for humanity, but people should have the freedom to do whatever they want inside their own home. So, when it comes to that issue, so no, strongly disagree. Oh, this is a tough question. So I am gonna do disagree. Well, first of all, the if we're talking about like the nonprofit, then I would put strongly disagree because they stole money. They they stole money from their own people. Um, Also, they didn't really help any of the black communities at all. Um, and I'm gonna put another reason I'm gonna put disagree is because the BLM riots after George Floyd and all this stuff like that caused a massive crime spike, and also defund the police, which is also tied to BLM. Um, Caused massive crime spikes again. And we're still dealing with that today. Just look at the cities like Chicago, New York, LA, San Francisco, etc. So I do not support the movement. Now I do support the statement Black Lives Matter, all lives matter. So I disagree with the movement, but I agree with the statement. I suppose human genetic modification. Yes. Theoretically, uh, we could be genetically modified for good reasons. To remove diseases, remove cancer possibilities, etc., etc. But there's also the possibility of bad genetic modification. Um, People could be genetically modified theoretically to be incredibly susceptible to a disease, thus making it possible to easily do a kill switch on someone. Also, if you're genetically modifying to make everyone consistent, um, you could theoretically genetically modify human thought to make people think one way, etc., and stuff like that. So I generally oppose it because you're just going down a slippery slope there, and there could be massive issues, both for medical reasons and social reasons. So I will put strongly disagree. Right? Mm, well, it's good if the people are voting for the person at the top. But otherwise, it's bad. So I will do disagree. High tariffs are needed to protect local industries. No, they're not needed to protect them, but they are a good tool too. So I will do agree. Even higher power. Disagree. I'm not religious. Um, I can't tell whether God does exist or not. So I will do disagree. Yes, automation and science are just generally better. It allow for higher productivity, higher amounts of resources made here in the U.S. and made abroad. Also allow for possibly space travel in the future, which is key to civilization in the long term because it allows us to have a second chance possibly on Mars and in other solar systems. Also, in about 1 billion years anyways, we're going to have to get off this planet. Not even 1 billion, probably 250 million anyways, because the sun will evaporate the oceans and engulf the earth. So it is a better world will tend to come from it. Yes. So strongly agree. Having independent nations with yes, um, independent nations can cause a risk to humanity. Just look at uh, nuclear bombs. If two nuclear powers were to go to war, it would destroy the world. It would cause mass destruction. Billions of people would die. So yes, it creates a large threat to humanity. Now there are some benefits in that different cultures can rule themselves instead of one oppressive culture controlling everything. But generally, large having independent nations do cause a risk to humanity. So agree. There's no need local governments. No, state and local governments are just better effectively at governing small populations. Just by the definition that they're smaller and they have less people to control. Um, so strongly disagree. No, not all deals. Uh, some deals are good. For example, NATO. It is allowed for us to expand our power over in Europe, and it has allowed for peace and security. So, also some economic cooperation between European nations has benefited us, especially the Marshall Plan. That although it cost a lot, it helped us in the long run by rebuilding Europe and helping us geopolitically. So that is actually a disagree. Yes, yes, the state should not recognize one religion. So strongly agree. Governments should not regulate the economy at all. No, disagree. They there should be minimal regulations because regulations cause market inefficiencies, but disagree. But there should be some regulations on monopolies, etc. So I will do partially. I'll do disagree. By progressive, yeah, society's become too progressive. Just look at the modern left. It's just gone insane with gender ideology, critical race theory, um, with accepting all migrants, even from cultures that are pretty bad, um, and want to kill people. It's just generally bad. Um, so yeah, society has become way too progressive. So I will do. So I will do. Strongly agree. No, no, it's not immoral. Um, it's not immoral. I know religious people tend to think it's immoral, but it's not. Um, People should have the freedom to do it. It's not really immoral. Pretty much everyone's probably done it and will do it. So I'll disagree. Um, agree. It isn't very radical. No, no, we should not return to a primitive lifestyle. In primitive times, we had a whole bunch of issues. Just look at Europe, the plague, etc. Mass death. 30% of the population was dead. Life expectancy was super low. They didn't have the luxuries back then that we do now. We live better. I live better. Someone from the middle class. I live better than the richest kings back in the 1800s or even in the 1900s. The richest people back then. I live better than them. So no, we should not return to a primitive lifestyle. Strongly disagree. So let's see. Uh, uh, federational, yes, I tend to support federal federal system where state and local governments have more power than the national government. Then democracy, yes, representative democracy is better than direct for multiple reasons. First, if you had direct democracy, you'd be voting on literally every single issue and literally every single piece of regulation. So yeah, freedom towards freedom, but centrist. Yes, the state does protect uh, certain rights, but freedom, the state also does have a lot of problems with freedom. So intervention, internationalism, sort of. Yes, we should cooperate, but we shouldn't. It shouldn't be to the detriment of the U.S. Then neutrality, yes. Sometimes war is needed. Sometimes it's not. Assimilationist, yes. Cultural cohesion is just generally better than multiculturalism and having a whole bunch of different cultures. Capitalism, yes. Capitalism was way better than socialism or communism. It's been proven throughout history. So yeah, no one understands. Plans, again, regulation generally bad. Protectionism. This is where I'm surprised. Now, I did say it is sort of necessary, but there are things that free trade should generally be allowed, so I'm actually surprised by that one. Religion, irreligious, I kind of expected that. Traditional, sort of expected that. Family is most important. Religion, again, I'm not religious, so an accelerationist. Technology, yes, technology is important, and I am a classical liberal. So there we go. So yeah, that's my political ideology, and thanks for watching. I'm Aiden, uh, a Gen Z liberal apparently, and this is my show.